Uh,
We are online now. Please, we can
okay,
start.
we can start now.
Okay, Ikra, please start.
Good morning, one and all. On behalf of Campus Law Center, University of Delhi, I extend a very a warm and heartfelt welcome to each one of you at Kartavya, celebrating 75 years of the Indian Constitution. It gives me immense pleasure to see so many of the participants joining us virtually today to the lecture series here of these prestigious cities. Each lecture in Kartavyam has been a step towards deepening our understanding of the Constitution, not just as a document of rights, but as a living responsibilities and duties. Today, the journey becomes even more special because we have with us three distinguished personalities whose scholarship, vision, leadership have a profound mark on academia, public discourse, in their respective fields. Their presence truly elevates the session. We are honored to have you, sir. First, we have Professor Dr. S. Surya Prakash, Vice Chancellor, National Law Institute, University Bhopal, a visionary academic leader, institutional builder, and prolific writer who has played a defining role in shaping legal education in India. Professor Dr. Himanshu Kumar Chaturvedi, a renowned historian and intellectual whose unwitting geo-cultural discourse has reshaped modern Indian historiography and influenced NEP national education policy history framework. Dr. Vedyanathan, retired professor of finance at IIM Bangalore, one of India's foremost voices in economics and public policy, whose work on India's non-corporate sector, black money, and governance has shaped both national debates and international forums. It is indeed a privilege to have you with us today. I am certain that the insight will inspire us to think deeply about the Constitution and its contemporary laws. So, to begin with the session and to set the tone for today, I now invite Professor Dr. Gunjan Gupta, ma'am, Professor in charge, Campus Law Center. Ma'am, may I kindly request you to deliver today's welcome address?
Thank you, Ikra. A very good morning, distinguished guests, esteemed professors, dear students, and all those joining us through the live stream. On behalf of the Campus Law Center, Faculty of Law, University of Delhi, it is my proud privilege to welcome you all to the 12th lecture of our Kartvavyam series, being organized to mark the monumental occasion of 75 years of the Indian Constitution. When we began Kartavyam, our vision was simple yet profound. To not just celebrate the Constitution as a legal document, but to rediscover it as a living force that continues to shape our democracy and our destiny. Each lecture in the series has been an attempt to invoke dialogue, reflection, and intellectual engagement on the ideals that lie at the heart of our republic. As Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had reminded us in the Constituent Assembly, however good a constitution may be, it's sure to turn out bad because those who are called to work, it happens to be a bad lot. However, a bad constitution may be, it may turn out to be good if those who are called to work on it happen to be a good lot. These words continue to echo as a timeless reminder that the Constitution is not merely a text, it is what we as citizens make of it. Today, as we gather here, we are deeply honored by the presence of eminent speakers and thinkers who have enriched the intellectual and institutional life of our country. I welcome Professor Dr. S. Surya Prakash, Vice Chancellor of National Law University. I welcome you, sir. An inspiring leader and academician whose contributions continue to shape the future of legal education. I would also welcome in line Dr. R. Vedyanathan, Professor, retired IIM Bangalore. Namaskar, sir. I welcome you. An eminent economist and author whose insights on economy, polity, and governance offer a rare depth and perspective. I also welcome Professor Himanshu Chaturvedi, Director of the India Institute of Advanced Studies, Shimla. Namaskar, sir. I welcome you. A premier institution of higher learning where critical questions of society, politics, and culture are engaged with scholarly depth. We are truly privileged to welcome you all to this Kartavyam today. As we reflect on the journey of 75 years of our constitution, it is worthwhile to recall the words of Justice Vivian Bose, who once wrote, "Our constitution is not a document for fastidious lawyers. It is a vehicle of life, and its spirit is always the spirit of the age. Indeed, each age must breathe its questions into the Constitution and seek answers within its framework." I welcome you all once again. Thank you. Over to you, Ikra.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us a strong start for today's session, and also for your inspiring word and uh, telling us the importance of Kartvayam. So now we move to the heart of today's program, the lecture by our distinguished speaker. So first, our first distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. Himanshu Chaturvedi. Professor Dr. Himanshu Chaturvedi is a distinguished historian and intellectual renowned for his pioneering contribution to modern Indian history in geocultural discourse and Indian historiography. Associated with Deen Dayal Upadhyay, Gorakhpur University since 1986, he has led both the history and philosophy department and chaired the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Fourth Peak. His acclaimed research includes a reinterpretation of Chola Chandra Incident 1922 and pioneering studies on economics, supported by ICHR. He has authored 6 volumes, supervised numerous PhD scholars, and delivered over 200 lectures in India and abroad. He has been a key contributor to NEP 2020 and UGC LOCF history curriculum. His work has shaped academic policy and content nationally. Notably, he edited Mother of Democracy India, showcased as at the G20 Summit in 2023. Sir, it is our privilege to have you here. May I request you to address the session for today? Sir, you are not audible in this.
Unmute.
Yeah. Is it okay now?
जी जी
Yes.
अब आ रही है आपकी
Yes.
Thank you. With a namaskar to everyone, and I would like to start with the word of thanks to the academic gentry which is conducting this very important series, uh, and especially to Dr. Gunjan Gupta for a welcome address, and second but none the other, Dr. Seema Singh, who got me into this. And let me and the fellow learner speakers, let me be clear on one point. It's raining very heavily in Shimla since yesterday evening. I don't know how long this internet will hold or not, won't hold, because it's a complete disruption here due to these heavy rains. Anyhow, uh, Dr. Seema has given me almost half an hour to share my views on this Kartavya, to know the idea of Bharat with respect to Article 1. I come from a discipline on which I can say in a very confident manner that this is the discipline, I mean, the discipline of history, which has 140 crore stakeholders in India, in our country. Uh, Everyone speaks about it, everyone talks about it, everyone has its own view. But frankly speaking, what I feel, I would like to share it on this platform, that once debating on these issues or on these challenges, uh, what I can get out from the brochure of the program, to quote, we seek to reimagine and catalyze new dimensions of constitutional interpretations to move beyond textbook textbook exegeses, unquote. Now, these lines, they are very important to me, that we seek to reimagine and catalyze new dimensions. I mean, what is the need in the first quarter of the 21st century to have these kind of discussions, to have these kind of brainstormings? What are the problem? What are the issues in context to the Kartavya and Bharat and the Constitution? I Let me start with one very frank opinion. I see the problem in a very different way, since I said that basically I'm a trained historian. But as far as my experience suggests, uh, we are debating for the past 5 years or so on the issues of Bharati Itihas, or one could say Indian history. And my argument regarding the whole thing is very simple: shift the methodology from geopolitical to geocultural. And once you shift the methodology of history from geopolitical to geocultural, you will see the results, and the whole narrative of the history or the issues will change without touching anything, without debating anything. And on this issue, I'm very convinced. I don't know to what extent I'll be able to convince uh, the academia which is connected today, that the word Kartavya is very much interconnected with the both. And once you interlink the Kartavya in the both, the issues of the Constitution, they did not only become a text in a constitutional document, they certainly change uh, the whole, I mean, nature and the interpretations of the things on which we are trying to reinterpret and reimagine the issues. Let me start with, say, with the Article 1 of the Constitution, we the people of India. And there I tried to search what is the English word for Kartavya. I went through the Oxford Dictionary, I went through the Collins Dictionary. There are so many English words which have been, say, translated or been synonymous to Kartavya, like duty, services, onus, obligation, task, arrearages. So this one word Kartavya and the other word both, if interpreted in the terms, what I say, the geocultural terms, then only one can have the understanding of the both, what you call the Bharat both. And once you have the understanding of the Bharat both, then I hope so things will become very easy to interpret and to understand. Because to the best of my understanding, I'm not a person from expert in the laws or in the constitution and all such things. But this very word constitution, I believe so, when it cropped up in the modern times after the French Revolution, which and they produced the first written document or so. It to me it is nothing more and nothing less but kind of a contract between the state and the society in in a certain geographical area, to make things more simpler, to make things more clearer. I've got a very, say, clear understanding about this document, what we call the Constitution. So if it is a contract between the state and the society, then on that issue, we have to be very clear that which society is being represented in this contract. Who are the people of India? We, the people of India. And in 21st century, we are still debating Bharat and India. I take it much more than a trivial issue. When we are debating on this issue of Bharat and India, then I must say that it is antonym versus exonym. Now, if I say endonym versus exonym, it is in context to the Bharat Bodh itself, and the Bodh and Kartavya, what I said earlier, are very dearly interconnected. And a nation with a history of civilization which dates back to thousands of years in the midst of the controversy over its name in the 21st century. It is not just a trivial issue over name, and controversial arguments does have a root of certain intellectual trajectory in post-colonial Bharat. I always use the word post-colonial Bharat. I never use the word post-independent India, because of a reason that the colonists tried hard to penetrate deep into our cultural ethos, in our value system, say in our whole cultural scenario. But we did not lost it in the 19th century. It's 100 years of history. And that is where I see very clearly that modern India is emerging, what the historians and so many, say, intellectuals of certain trajectory have suggested again and again, that 19th century is the emergence of the modern India. But I see it as the emergence of the modern India, but contesting Bharat. So when I see that it's a contesting Bharat, which is seriously contesting with the emergence of modern India in the colonial times, so let us say in simple words that shall we be influenced by antonym or by exonym? Need not to emphasize that a name affixed to an identity by its own community is bracketed as endonym, whereas names so affixed by an outsider are exonym. Tracing the history of self, which is almost synonymous to the cultural roots of nomenclature dating back to Vishnu Puran, that the land lying north of the ocean and south of the snow-covered mountains is called Bharat. This is the antonym name associated with the territory of the nation since earliest times. On the contrary, according to certain sections of intelligentsia, which goes back to the days of Alexander and Megasthenes, and so many outsiders to claim that name India exists in history. Since then, however, one has to decide the homogeneity of such intruders, visitors on the scale of exonym. Once we start decoding this, then we are at some point to say that why Bharat was under siege and why the Kartavya and the Bodh and the Bharat, which are so dearly interconnected, have lost to certain extent its face value, on which we are debating for the past decade or so. Not only for the past decade or so, but I'll say since 1947 in the post-colonial times. To understand this, in short, we have to go into the historical background, because without that, the issue of the Kartavya and the issue of the Bodh, we, at least I feel, cannot be made clear to most of the people for whom we are addressing these issues. So not going far back, one can trace the origin of the issue in the 19th century Bharat. And it is interesting to note that many scholars of modern Indian history prolifically judge the emergence of modern India in the course of the 19th century. I say, if modern India was emerging, then colonial rule was a God-sent opportunity to enlighten Bharat through a mixture of evangelical and utilitarian thought process. Perhaps these scholars of certain leanings fail to look deep into the process of intangible destruction that emerging modern India through that earlier colonist colonial tools was witnessing in the form of colonizing the native minds. It is interesting to note that earlier colonists referred Bharat as Indostan. It is Indostan, Indostan, and termed Hindu jurisprudence as Code of Gentoo, laws that was coded by none other but by the N.B. Halhed in the decades of 1717, the first ethnographer to write something about the Hindu laws. He quoted it, he nomenclatured it as the Code of Gentoo laws. Further, the intangible destruction of the culture reached its zenith when Macaulay, need not to say, declared that no Indian literature is worth keeping in a shelf of European library. I mean, these lines are not merely a rejection of literature, the rejection of the civilizational roots, the rejection of Bharat itself, but currently the rejection of a civilizational treasure on which a culture thrives. And if I say so that there is a connectivity between the Kartavya and the Bodh, then it has to be understood very deeply that in 19th century, what Macaulay and his guru, Cecil Rhodes, and in the same times a very, say, important institution coming up in Oxford University, the Bowdoin Chair, what were they up to? So this is a story that needs deeper, say, introspection, and one goes into it, then starts the dismantling of Bharat and its both. Hence on, Bharat started contesting modern India, a theme so dearly avoided by a section of scholars in post-colonial Bharat. One cannot avoid to mention that the basic fundamentals of Bharat were put under the denomination of satanic and snake charmers. This is the story of the 19th century in a nutshell. So the Enlightenment, or say, was coming by the Western tools. Bodhisattva was lost and the Bharat too was lost. So if I say so that hence on Bharat started contesting modern India, a theme so dearly awarded by a section of scholars in post-colonial Bharat, one cannot avoid to mention that the very basic fundamentals of the civilizational, say, ethos and civilizational, say, values were put to a strong test. In a nutshell, condemnation of Bharatiya ethos was the story of 19th century in the emerging modern India. It was then Bharat again started contesting to preserve its soul as it had done previously also so many times. I'll again say that we, the people of Bharat, should preserve with the same sense of Kartavya Bodh, and what is both needs attention, it is societal consciousness towards nation. So both is nothing but a societal consciousness to the nation. Societal consciousness, I mean, it's a bit, say, the word consciousness is bit again, I don't take it as a parallel to Chaitanyata, and I don't take it parallel to your feel with the grassroots feel with the nation. So how the nation should be looked upon and where Bharat was contesting, from where this both has to be connected. As a student of history, I feel so. That if modernity wrought through colonialism is a demonization of compromising the identity of self, basically. I mean, the Swa was compromised, and this is what the colonial masters were doing. So as the Swa was compromised, then the world history is full of such examples. Comprehending the contestation of Bharat with India is an unparalleled history. Let me quote, I don't find any history in the world any nation's history in the world which lost its base of the civilization and culture wherever the white men trod it. Be it the example of North American continent, be it the example of South American continent, be it the example of the Australian continent. They did have their own cultures, they did have their own values, they did have their own, say, ways to look at the society, and the society had its own ways to move. All was lost within a span of 100 and 200 years, but this nation contested. And that is where I'm trying to figure out the things, that how Bharat contested and what is the issues that the both related so dearly to this Kartavya. A classical example, I would say, this is the loss of the self. What I'm trying to reach upon in the course of the colonization history, which starts from say 17th century and goes on. A classical example of loss and recovery of the self during such a struggle. Let me give you one example only because I have the paucity of the time. Uh, one, I mean, the best example to understand this about the loss and recovery of the self during the 19th century is the story of that Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. It is impossible to read the life of Aurobindo without sensing the inner pain which went in imperialism in India. But this I'm hinting, I'm just quoting this thing only because to understand the issue of the Bodh. What I again and again I'm repeating that the Kartavya and the Bodh are inseparable. You separate them and you make it a text only, then it is very difficult for the society to accept it. What does it mean? So much of the pain was inflicted and much of the destruction of his cultural self undertaken within the confines of his family, popularly known as Bhadralok, though a term it needs reinterpretation. This term, so it came out in 1916, the Bengal Bhadralok. And Bhadralok is nothing but the earliest Western education byproduct of the Makales, Bengal. And that societal group which emerged in Calcutta, we call it Bhadralok in historical term. And we means few historians have called it. It was a total system which young Aurobindo had to confront. For years, he was taught to view England as an ideal society. Now, I'm coming to the society and the connectivity from where I have started earlier. For years, he was taught to view England as an ideal society. And Aurobindo Okyad Ghosh, the Western middle name was given by his father at birth. To understand the wrath of cultural penetration of colonialism, one needs to trace the journey of Aurobindo Okyad Ghosh to Aurobindo Ghosh and finally to Sri Aurobindo. This is loss and recovery of the self. Now, this is a very important juncture to start with, where Aurobindo starts with the name Okyad between the Aurobindo and the Ghosh, and how it ends at Sri Aurobindo. And this journey is the loss and recovery of the self, loss and recovery of the Swa, loss and recovery of the Bodh, and loss and recovery of the Kartavya. Everything, you just put it together and hardly you can debate on any issue and on any point. This may shed light on the cultural invasion of colonial philosophy and the Bharatiya response by understanding the loss and recovery of self. Through Aurobindo and through him, the recovery of fundamental ideals of Bharatiyata. Now, this is what is very important, fundamental ideals of Bharatiyata. Thus, his observations are clear, and I can't stop myself from quoting few lines when I come to this Bharatiyata and the Bodh and the Kartavya. And his observations are very clear. That I know my country as a mother. Now, this is where the Bodh comes. If you have a feeling that this is not only a geographical expression, this land where I am born to where I belong to, which identifies me, that land is not a geographical territory only with a name or a nomenclature, that his observations are clear. I know my country as a mother. I offer my devotions, my worship. Once you have this bodh about the land, that you offer my devotion and worship, so his darshan, which inspired generations of nationalists through Bhavani Mandir, speaks volumes about nation is for him. For him, nation was not a contract. So I started with French Revolution, that the constitution was a contract, what we would talk about the Hobbes law and Rousseau and all such things before and after the French Revolution, and so many constitutional debates occurred in the West. It has a long history. So for him, what is a nation? Or what nation is? What is our mother country? It is not a piece of art, not a figure of speech, nor a fiction of mind. It is a mighty Shakti composed of all Shaktis. Of all the millions of units that make up of the nation, just as Bhavani Maharshi Mandir sprang into being from the Shaktis of all millions of gods assembled in our mass of forces and wielded into the unity of Shaktis of 300 million people, unquote. This is nation for him. This is the energy of this is the source of energy for the nation, of how its population, what he quotes at this time is the 300 million people, and the energy that oozes out, the thought process that oozes out, the both which with these millions of people have. This is what the nation is all about. Thus, spiritualism, an adverse idea of nationalism to Occidentals, became a principal characteristics of his political darshan, perhaps an answer to the West and its thoughts, which influenced so many that Bharat may have been lost forever in the emergence of modern India, and later the mantra of three that I quote, the mantra of three, in which I have got a very strong belief in my academic journey in decoding these colonial thought processes. And this mantra of three is Swa, that is Swa plus Raj and Swa plus Desh, is equal to the devotion to motherland, that is Vande Mataram. So, going through this phase, if one starts, contemplating the things or understanding the things in these terms, then only it could become the fundamental principle of nationalist saga for majority. I say the majority. All three trace the lineage of Bharat, finally culminating in the words of Guru Rabindranath Tagore, Bharat Bhagya Vidhata. So there is a clear connectivity of the process, that how Bharat was contesting and how the Bharat both itself had to be nurtured, had to be fought out in these colonial times. And believe it or you don't believe it, that this colonial government, it made the deepest of penetration in the Indian society, and these are the results only on which we are debating today, we are arguing today, we are trying to set the things right. So other invaders didn't have that much of an impression on the roots of the Indian society and its culture, and thus it is the 19th century colonial power that made the deepest of the penetration on the Bharat Bhaud itself, because they wanted to change this Bharat Bhaud itself. So, but still the contestation continues post 1947. And one more thing that I would like to start your attention on, on this aspect, that we tend to make a mistake in this contestation of Bharat in the 19th century, that we put the whole social reform movement which occurred in the 19th century in one basket, and they are of the same nature. No. We have to understand, we have to divide them into two different baskets. One kind of a social reform movement is a social reform movement which I term as acculturative. When I say acculturative, that means the outside culture is influencing those kind of social reform movements. And the second, basket of the social reform movement, what I term them as transitional. When I say transitional, it means that whatever problems had arisen in the civilizational, march, which is normal in every civilization to happen and to occur in the course of its history, they wanted to get rid of those, issues, but they stuck to the roots. They did not compromise with the basic roots and the basic fundamentals of our cultural ethos. So this transitional movement is very important when we come to the issue of the contesting Bharat in the 19th century with the emergence of the modern India. Now further, when I say the contestation continues, after gaining political independence, I rather stuck to this one point, political independence. I don't talk about the social independence. I don't talk about the cultural independence. I don't talk about the independence of the ideas. And this is what the beauty is all about, that we did not lost. Once the ideas were lost, everything would have lost. So India was freed in 47. Historically, emergence of the Bharat would have been a natural culmination in nomenclature. Colonists did had native collaborators. We have to understand this. Colonialism didn't survive without native collaborators. But unfortunately, colonialism had deeper influence on few newly political independent Indians also. So that is where I'm hinting at the aculturative and the transitional movements. So the aculturative movement, it also had its impact, deep impact on the Indian minds. So it is interesting to summarize that the debate on the nomenclature was initiated in the Constituent Assembly on 4th of November 1948. When a draft for constitution was put forth, immediate reaction was on the name of omission of Bharat. Now, why I come to the name omission of the name of Bharat? Because I started with this fundamental say issue that Bharat Bodh, Kartavya, Constitution, interpretation, they all are so interwoven in the consciousness of a mind, of a person, and that person is a part of the society at large. A year later, in on September 18, 1949, if my memory serves me correct, the amendment did consist as that India, that is Bharat, shall be union of states. To this, H.V. Kamath said this was a clumsy construction and a constitutional slip. Kamath cited, for example, of Ireland, the name of the state is Ire, or in the English language. It is worth quoting another member, Seth Govindadas, who said, "The word India does not occur in our ancient books. It began to be used when the Greeks came to India." I started from antonym and hexagon, if you could remember. So here in the debate, Seth Govindadas says that the word India does not occur in our ancient books. I said it is not just a trivial issue. It has much to do with our whole thought process. It began to be used when Greeks came to India. They named our Sindhu river as India, and India was derived from Indus. There's a mention of this in Encyclopedia Britannica also, and others say such things. On the contrary, if we look up the Vedas and the Upanishads, the Brahmanas and our great ancient book, the Mahabharata, we find the mention of the name Bharat, but Macaulay changed it all by 1833, after 1835. I hope my time is over, but I'll conclude within 2 minutes. And the relevant portion of the debate in the Constituent Assembly may suffice the issue of contesting Bharat. That is where I've started with contesting Bharat. And the now emerged modern India, Sri Kamala Party said in the amendment of Kamath that when a country is in bondage, it loses its soul. During its slavery for 1,000 years, our country too lost its everything. We lost our culture, we lost our history, we lost our prestige, we lost our humanity, we lost our self-respect, we lost our soul, and indeed we lost our form and name. So these debates, they do send some kind of a message to us if we go through them very seriously. So finally, India, that is Bharat, emerged. And that is where I take the whole thing in the historical phenomena, that why this contestation happened in 19th century. What were the colonial second tools? What were the colonial ideas? What were the colonial penetrations? And what were the ways through which this contestation was going on? But through these, I'm say very thankful to the organizers for picking up this kind of an issue regarding the Kartavya Bodh. And I'll be more than happy if somebody can enlighten me with a single word to Kartavya, with a single word to Sanskara, with a single word to Darshan, with a single word on so many things. Because once you change the word, the Bodh changes, the meaning changes, and the whole contract, the whole book becomes only a contract. But the whole message that has to go out for the Kartavya is, you can just put it in the consciousness of the Chaitanyata of the people, which I hope will make this wonderful draft, the Constitution of India or the Constitution of Bharat, a draft which is not just a text, but we live with it through our own bodh and through our own kartavya. So again, I'm thankful. Whatever time I had, whatever say, I'm not an expert in constitution, but the thought process that I had gathered in my academic journey, I wanted to share it with all of you. So with thanks to everyone, I stop here. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. You have powerfully decoded the history of Bharat and India. And thank you for making us understand the deep interconnection between the Kartavya, for reminding us why reclaiming the name Bharat is essential for our identity as a nation. And as someone who has always loved reading about history, I gained a lot from this session, and I'm sure everyone here has also taken away something new and valuable. So, as moving to the next, we have Professor Dr. S. Surya Prakash. So, Dr. S. Surya Prakash, Vice Chancellor of National Law Institute, University Bhopal, is an eminent academician and author. He has previously served as Vice Chancellor of DSNLU, Vishakhapatnam, and as the founding Vice Chancellor of MNLU, Aurangabad, an alumnus of Andhra and Acharya Nagarjuna universities with a PhD from Berhampur University. He has more than 5 decades of academic and administrative leadership. His work includes bonded labor and social justice, Turning Point, the story of law teachers and constitution and composite culture. He has presented over 50 papers at national and international forums and published extensively on labor rights, legal education, and constitutional values. As founding editor of the Indian Law Review, he has played a pivotal role in advancing legal research and scholarship. We are privileged to have you, sir. May I kindly invite you to address the virtual stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjum. Almost good afternoon to all. And I wish to share my thoughts on land culture. And I wish to pick up what my predecessor, Professor Himansh Kumarji, has said in the conclusion that referring to the Constituent Assembly debates, Kamalapat Tripathi, the member of Constituent Assembly, has stated that during the 1000 years of slavery and subjugation, we lost our culture. And similar sentiments are also expressed by many other members. I wish to share certain comments by the other members before venturing into my topic of land culture. And in his last speech on 25th November 1949, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chairman of the drafting committee, has observed, here, to quote, "Here I could have ended, but my mind is so full of future of our country that I feel I ought to take this occasion to give expression to some of my reflections thereon." This was his last speech. Almost the Constitution was approved by the Constituent Assembly. On 26 January 1950, India will be an independent country. What would happen to her independence? Will she maintain her independence or will she lose it again? This is the first thought that comes to my mind. It is not that India was never an independent country. The point is that she once lost the independence she had. Will she lost it a second time? It is this thought which makes me most anxious for future. What perturbs me greatly is the fact that not only India has once before lost her independence, but she lost it by the infidelity and treachery of some of her own people. In the invasion of Sindh by Muhammad bin Qasim, the military commanders of King Dahir accepted bribes from the agents of Muhammad bin Qasim and refused to fight on the side of their king. It was Jaichand who invited Muhammad Ghori to invade India and fight against Prithviraj and promised him the help of himself and Solanki kings. When Shivaji was fighting for liberation of Hindus, the other Maratha noblemen and Rajput kings were fighting the battle on the side of Mughal emperors. When the British were trying to destroy Sikh rulers, Gulab Singh, the principal commander, sat silent and did not help to save the Sikh kingdom. In 1857, when a large part of India has declared a war of independence against the British, the Sikhs stood and watched the event as silent spectators. Dr. Ambedkar went on saying, "Will history repeat itself? It is this thought which fills me with anxiety. This anxiety is deepened by the realization of the fact that, in addition to our old enemies in the form of castes and creeds, we are going to have many political parties with diverse and opposing political creeds. Will Indians place country above their creed, or will they place creed above the country?" These are the master observations by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar when the Constitution was put for the acceptance for the adoption by the Constituent Assembly on 26th November 1949. Yes, as it was rightly said, Himanshuji, that we have a beautiful constitution, and the constitution starts with "We the people of India." I'm not, because I not want to venture into India, Bharat, as it was already discussed, but I would like to focus. When Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar has expressed his anxiety that India may lose its independence again. Losing independence has several dimensions. If we are militarily weak, we may lose. It may be political freedom, we may lose. It may be economic sovereignty, we may lose. And last but not the least, if we lose our culture, cultural identity, and in the history of mankind, if we look at the nations, the races, if you want to destroy a nation, destroy its culture. If culture is destroyed, the race will become directionless, and it would be easy to conquer that race. And today, what's happening, and I'm looking at the present scenario only in the context of law and culture, from the cultural dimension only. So, when we are, and also I would like to remind you, the first and the first class that were being the Indians, there is in the fundamental duties, that is Article 51A, speaks about the fundamental duties. It shall be the duty of every citizen of India to value and preserve the rich heritage and our composite culture. So, it is our fundamental duty to preserve and protect our rich heritage and composite culture. So, when I am speaking about the composite culture, it may include different dimensions again. So, first of all, let us understand what is the meaning of culture. It is said that culture is the intellectual side of civilization, and India is one of the ancient countries with its flowing civilization for more than 7,000 years. And people say that from BC 3000, many scholars has objected to it because Indian culture is more ancient than the great Noah floods that has happened according to the biblical theory, that is BC 3000. Our culture goes back beyond 3000. So when we speak about the culture, the social anthropologists, they have demarcated the culture as material and non-material culture. So unless and until we understand what is culture, it is not possible what are the different components of culture and how culture is getting destroyed nowadays. So the former, that is the material culture, it includes technology, art forms, architecture, material goods, equipments that are used in daily life. That is household, agriculture, trade and commerce, and warfare and other social activities. Everything that we use in day-to-day life, it is a part of our material culture, which we have inherited, which we have developed. The iron pillar near Qutub Minar, it's a part of our culture. That is metallurgy. And the dancing doll, which was found in the excavations of Harappa, Mohenjo-daro. It was an alloy of different metals. It shows that our forefathers, they were experts in metallurgy, and the how the Harappan civilization has emerged. The remains of the beautifully planned city with a drainage system, granaries, baths, and all these things, that they are part of our civilization, they are part of our material culture. And then we come to the non-material culture. The later, that is the non-material culture, it includes the literary and intellectual traditions, the beliefs, the myths, the legends, and other forms of oral traditions. So, in broad sense, culture is a complex whole which includes the knowledge, the belief, the art, the morals, law, custom, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by a human being as a member of a civilized society. So the basic elements of culture are values, norms, symbols. There is language, folklore, religious ideas, the philosophical books, the theories, everything comes under non-material culture. So when we look at the culture, basically the culture has three dimensions. The first one is normative system. When we speak about normative system, by which we mean that there is a social control in the form of sanctions. That is laws, regulations, and expressive system. It includes music, dance, art, culture, and other cultural expressions of the people. All these are expressive cultural expressions. And thirdly, it is a system of ideas which enables members of the society to interpret the world meaningfully. So all our literature, right from the ancient Indian literature, Vedas, and then Itihas, that is Ramayana, Mahabharata, and then Puranas, and then uh, other things. All this comes under the ideas and the process through which culture influences the social system and institutions are made. Marriage is an institution, and so on. Social institutions are developed with these social ideas. So this is the third one. So fortunately, in India, we have a culture and continuous flowing civilization of more than 5,000 years. And there are other great civilizations also, like Egypt, Mesopotamia, Roman, and other cultures. And today, what is remaining continuous flowing civilization is only China and India. And even in China also, there is some interruptions because of the communist regimes, etc. So when we are speaking about, so we have to understand that culture has different dimensions, both material and non-material. Now coming to where the generations, our forefathers, our generation, and our children, grandchildren, where do they learn these customs and culture? Do they learn merely because they are existing in the system because we are members of the society? Do we learn all these cultural, or we adopt all these cultural values, or someone somewhere has to teach and preach these cultural values and norms to the society, to the members of the society? If we see in this dimension, there are three places where a child, a member of the society, will be acquainted, will be taught, will be preached these customs. The first one is the home. It is the parents. And I will come to there are three places where the human beings as a members of the society learn these cultural values, morals, material, non-material, and everything. So these three places, the first one is home. Home I will discuss in the last. The second one is schools. The third one is temple. And as I stated that the phrase that is used in the constitution is composite culture. And again, when we say that composite means it is not one. There may be different cultures. So being a Hindu, with my limited knowledge, I want to focus only on Hindu culture, which is a component of the composite culture. Because India is predominantly a Hindu nation, majority of the population. And after 1947 independence, whether within the institutions, whether our children, whether we ourselves were taught this culture, which was survived for thousands of years, it's only an analysis and where we stand, what is before 1947 and what is after 1947, and particularly in the 21st century. And then let us see what is the school system. And at the time of independence, when the Mughals they came, there were nearly 4,000 to 5,000 gurukulas. And in gurukulas, please mark the difference. It is not the modern India, this present education system. All of us know that this was introduced by Lord Macaulay, and he wants that whatever the subjects that were taught in the Western society, they should be taught even in Indian schools and colleges, and how the three universities were started in 1860 with a small donation, not a small donation, by a big donation by the East India Company for the. So apart from that, what was the schooling system, and whether our schooling system before the advent of Lord Macaulay, whether these schools they taught only the Vedic education or there are also other subjects. When we are speaking about 5,000 gurukulas, and in the 5,000 gurukulas, all subjects were taught, not in the present context of Darwin theory of evolution, etc., but all subjects, including Vedas. That is the geology, the astronomy, mathematics, literature, including Vedas, the medicine, engineering, civil engineering, and construction of temple, architecture, construction of cities, and every subject was taught according to the interests of the students. That was in the Gurukula system. And it's also a misunderstanding, or what we call an illusion was spread that Gurukula system, it was restricted only to a particular community or communities. That's just. If you look into the ancient literature, particularly the story of Satyakama Jabali, the Gurukulas, they were open, and whosoever is capable, they were admitted as students. And I would like to draw your kind attention. What was our education system? And as we know that the first texts of our literature, they are Vedas, and Rigved, Samved, Yajurved, and for each Veda, there were supplementary Upanishads, and for Krishna Yajurveda, there is a Taittiriya Upanishad. And because this is the Taittiriya Upanishad which prescribes the education system. And in the Taittiriya Upanishad, you will find the other Sikshavalli, that is 3 parts, Sikshavalli, Anandavalli, and Bhrigvalli, and which speaks about the what are the norms of the society, that is, and what was the characteristics and duties of a teacher. Everything was given in detail in Taittiriya Upanishad. And what are the duties? Rutancha sadhvaya pravachancha, satyanta sadhvaya pravachancha, tapascha sadhvaya pravachancha, damascha sadhvaya pravachancha. So like this, there are so many. That is what should be taught in the B.Ed or M.Ed. These were provided in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And also, today we want our children, and at many meetings, the speakers, they keep saying such, that is Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, from where all these things has come. All these things, they were given in Taittiriya Upanishad. So, at the time of convocation, Snatak, after completion of his education, a student has to make the promises. Satyam Vada, that means he should always speak truth. Dharmam Chara, he should always follow the Dharma. Swadhyarma Pramadaha, whatever that I have learned, I should not neglect it. And Satyana Pramaditatvam, and I should never neglect in following the truth. Dharmana Pramaditatvam, I should never neglect following Dharma. Kushalana Pramaditatvam, that means I should, whatever I acquire, it should be only according to Dharma. And there are so many such mandates, promises that a student has to make. And they include Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atide Devo Bhava, Deva Pitru Karyabhyam Sapramaditavyam. That means to our forefathers and to the Devatas, I should offer Shraddhanjali, Swadhyaya Pravachanam, Pramaditatvam, whatever that I have learned, I should share it with others. And above all, Shraddhaya Deyam, whatever you give it with full devotion. Ashraddha Deyam, you should never give anything with negligence. Sriya Deyam, whatever you give with a smile on your face. Shriya Deyam, that means give with all obedience and sincerity. Bhya Deyam, and give it with all humility. Not that if you want to give it in a rash and negligent way. And Samida Deyam, that means with all sincerity and friendship you have to. So these are the things which our education system has provided for the students and for the teachers, because there are so many things, because paucity of time, just I am only touching the tip of the iceberg. So all this is our culture, and this culture was never taught after 1947 in the so-called secular schools. That means what I would like to convince is that the first place where culture is taught, there is most of our teachings based on Vedas, based on Mahabharata, based on, if you want to look at what is a man with a moral values, the best example is Sri Ram. Sri Ram is considered as the complete person. Rama is not only the Rupama, and also he is the presentation of, manifestation of Dharma. And also for so many things, human values that we learn from the relation between brothers, the relation between father and sons, the family system, the love and affection between wife and husband. All these things we learn from. This is how the institution of marriage was intact. So all these things which were earlier taught in the schools, now they are totally prohibited, because nowadays our schools are secular schools. All these things, they are prohibited. So we can say many things. What is eliminated from our education system? So my submission is that culture is not taught in our schools. Our culture is totally banned from the teachings of our schools. And next, coming to the temples. At one point of time, the temples, they are the social, cultural, and religious centers. So the congregation of people used to take place in the temples. So the Purohit are every day evening, there used to be some cultural gatherings along with the moral stories from different Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad, Upanishads. In the evening congregations, the society was taught, and the society was given direction by the priests in the temples. Today, what's happening in the temples? We became a secular nation and we do not know. And by virtue of Article 25, 26, all temples, they were taken over by the state. And we are a secular nation, and whereas Hindus have no right. From Andhra Pradesh, just I'm not going through the provisions, just I would like, for the sake of information, AP Charitable Hindu Religious Institutions and Endowments Act, and Baba Baidyanath Dham, Bihar Hindu Religious Act, Bodh Gaya Temple Act, Charitable Religious Trust Act, Charitable Endowments Act, Himachal Pradesh, Karnataka, Kodal Manikam Devaswam Act, Madhya Pradesh, Mahasarada Devi, Madras Hindu Religious Charitable Endowments Act, Odisha, Padampur, Puducherry, Punjab Religious Endowments Act 1863. And like this, there are a list of Endowments Act. There are nearly 40. I have enumerated 38 enactments of different states only to govern the Hindu temples. So today, what is the status of Hindu temples? No doubt, the governments, they are maintaining. They are just like in a mall, you purchase a ticket and you go to a movie. At least there you have time for 2.5 hours, whatever you want. But temples were reduced. Just you go inside, have darshan and get out. Nothing less, nothing more. Either whatever the puja, whatever you want to perform. And the religious, cultural, dharmic centers, they were reduced to a mechanical centers. Just in the queue you enter, have darshan and come back. And after that, nothing less, nothing more. So what's happening? And the community feeling among Hindus, that is vanishing. And the community practices. Earlier, in my childhood also, in the village, after everything is over, in Ramayana, in every village in South India, there will be two temples. One is Temple of Rama and one is Shivalayam. Ramalayam and Shivalayam, these two are compulsory. And every day, after that, Purohit, the person who wants hit, that means good to the Puram, means to the village or town, he is Purohit. And everybody go to seek his help, seek his advice. And also, every evening, he will sit in the temple and all the people will come, problems will be discussed. And not only that, along with that, he will preach or he will teach or he will explain some story relating to Hindu religion. This has been going on for several centuries. Even in Mughals' time, yeah, and even in during the time of this Britishers or French people time, this practice was going on. And nowadays, ये पूरा खत्म हो गया. Now, the priests, they are paid salaries. Even they have no right to take the offerings in the plate. If the devotees, they give 5 rupees, 10 rupees, the endowment officer will be standing there. Just simply he will snatch that 50 rupees and he will keep it in the hundi. And many other secular activities are happening with the temple earnings. Sometimes even government is also taking the money for the welfare activities. So the second place, what I would like to convince is that where culture has to be taught, where culture has to be passed on. Schools are gone, schools are there, but these teachings of religion is culture has gone in the schools. And the second, in temples also, the teachings of the culture has gone. And temples today has become very, very mechanical, very mechanical. Just you enter and you come out. There it's and a little bit Tirumal Tirupati Devasthanam. And we know what has happened last year, what Mughals and these they could not do. The government made to eat all the devotees, the polluted rasam. That's a different story. So my understanding is that temples are also barred by the government rules to preach, and to preach the culture of Hindus to Hindus, that is prohibited in temples. So the culture is not taught in the schools, in the temples. And then the first is family. Now I discuss the family system. And today, what kind of family system do we have? The joint families has gone. And in earlier days, the grandmas, dada, dadi, nana, nani, they used to keep the grandchildren in their laps and they used to explain. We heard that Jijabai, she used to tell the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata to Shivaji, gone are the days. Parents, both parents are employed, and the most dangerous things that is happening today in the family system is in order to keep the child silent, give him a mobile, that is smart mobile, and everything is available in the mobile. And parents, they never think about after the day's work, they will come and switch on the TV. All the dirty serials, the lumpen material, they will appear on the TV. And then if you watch the movies, that is another disaster. Bollywood has forgotten about the culture during the last 30, 40 years, ever since the Bollywood has entered into the hands of mafia, gone. The culture. So today what is happening is that for the young generation, there is no way how they could learn our culture. That is the Hindu culture. Parents has no time, and micro families, there are no giant families. Chacha, chachi, bua, sab, they are living in their own way. So the present generation, what is shown on the TV, what is shown in the Bollywood, they are thinking that it is the culture. So to destroy a race, F-16 aircrafts and long-range missiles are not necessary. Just simply destroy the culture of the race. The race will become directionless and the race will be destroyed automatically. You need not have any bombs, you need not have any bullets. So unfortunately, law is also either consciously or unconsciously supporting for the destruction of the culture. And the same is not with the others. So on Sundays, churches, fathers, they will preach their religious texts, etc., etc. And on Friday, Muslims, the Maulvis, they preach there. So such things. So what are three places where the cultural awakening or enlightenment comes? Homes, temples, education. In all these three, for the majority population, culture is almost non-credit course ho gaya. So nobody is preaching, nobody is teaching. And tomorrow, what will happen? What kind of culture does our young generation will come to know? That is a very, very big question mark. We are almost disconnected. The young generation is almost disconnected with our own culture, our rich values, our rich heritage. Though Constitution says that it shall be the very duty of every citizen of India to preserve and protect the rich heritage and composite culture of India. Are we going in that direction or not? This is my mute question. And here I would like to stop because time is over. And thank you, Dr. Seema Singh, for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. This is my analysis of the culture. And last but not the least, let me also say one thing. In the original constitution is divided into 22 parts. In all 22 parts, you will find pictures of representing different cultures. So please go through the original constitution. Thank you very much. And I appreciate Delhi Law Center for arranging these programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a question at the end. Ikra, now you can continue.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an enlightening session, sharing us with your reflection on Dr. Ambedkar's fear about losing India's sovereignty and culture. And your emphasis on how nation is weakened when its culture is destroyed were truly powerful. And you reminded us that law and culture are deeply intertwined. As a citizen of this country, I also feel like it is our duty to safeguard our culture and identity for our upcoming generation. And I'm sure all of us are taking back a deeper understanding of these core concepts of culture, along with the role of religious institution and family in preserving culture, gave us a new perspective and other valuable sides through your lecture. Thank you, sir. And now moving forward through this lecture series, it's my privilege to introduce our final speaker for the day, Dr. R. Vaidyanathan. Dr. R. Vaidyanathan, a retired professor of finance at IIM Bangalore, is one of the India's most respected voices in finance, public policy, national security, a graduate of Loyola College with advanced degrees from ISI Calcutta and IIM Calcutta. He has taught at IIM Calcutta and founded the Centers for Insurance Research and Capital Market Research at IIM Bombay. A two-time Fulbright scholar and ICSSR fellow, he has served on key committees on SEBI, RBI, and IRDA and TFRDA. Besides being a member of National Security Advisory Board, he is the author of widely acclaimed works like India, Black Money and Tax Haven, and Caste as Social Capital. Recipient of the Life Contribution Award from IPRIA, he currently serves as Emeritus Adjunct Professor at Rashtriya Raksha University. He is also remembered for his cameo as a professor in the iconic film Three Idiots. We welcome you, sir, for addressing this lecture.
So thank you very much, Ikra, for that kind introduction. I am indeed happy to be part of this gathering. After listening to that vast sweep provided by Himanshuji and Suri Prakash on various issues of constitution as well as the culture integrated into the constitution, I am not an expert on constitution nor law. I should at the outset tell. I told Simaji, why are you calling me? Because I am not connected with the legal system or any of that. And I should at the outset tell, my grandfather advised me long time before, never enter a police station and never go to a court. These are the two major advice he provided to me. And before his death, I reasonably followed that advice. And because he told us, if you go to a Thana, you are not going to be interrogated or anything. They will like to give you justice. Most of the Tanedars nowadays think they are judges and they will like to provide justice to you. As far as court is concerned, we believe in rebirth. But that cannot be the basis of going to a court, because we will get the justice only in the next birth. And in the next birth, the judge will become the accused will become the lawyer will become the victim, and all that confusion will take place. Anyhow, by and large, I have kept his advice. So I was telling Simaji, my relationship with law is this much only in terms of court. And of course, once I had to go to a Thana, that was a long time before. In those days, passport verification used to be there. So the policeman has to certify that I am a, honorable citizen and I am a respectable man and other thing. Anyhow, that's the past. Now, she asked me to talk about facing the future. So I am just mentioning the global situation. If you look at it, is extremely fluid and extremely what one can call challenging. Very simple example. If you go back to 1990, the G7 countries had more than 50% of the global GDP in 1990, which is not very far away actually. And if you take 2024, and in those days, 1990, the countries like India, China, Brazil, and Indonesia, these were considered as major emerging markets. They had hardly something like 30%. Just sorry. They had something like these four countries had something like 35%. But if you come today, 2024, the G7 share in the global GDP has significantly fallen. It's around 35%. While as the other group, actually, partly BRICS group, you can call it BRICS Plus, if you take it, they have reached 50%. So this is a huge global situation and a global, they call it global crisis because whenever there is a crisis in Western countries, they make it into a global crisis. They don't accept it's a crisis of G7 or West or anything. For instance, the Second World War was primarily the war between England and Germany. France was also joining in, but they told it's a world war. And Indians were dying in Singapore and Sudan and various other countries. So they make their problem into a world problem. So this is the major crisis. The second one is the decline in the family system in Western countries. 41% of the birth is out of wedlock in US today. That means single parent family. Single parent is not single father. It's always single mother. And so the mother has to manage. There are no, actually, there was a committee constituted in UK to study the family system in around 2015 because there was a riot in various parts of Britain where the children began to get into supermarkets and loot goods, uh, youngsters. And I was in Manchester that time. They looted goods from, they entered every possible shops and establishment except one, which is a bookshop, because that is of no use to those children of UK. So they didn't enter there or try to take up anything. Anyhow, a committee was constituted by the British government, which Archbishop of London is the chief. And finally, the committee report is in the internet. The first sentence is, as Surya Prakash was telling, the sovereignty of the family is dead. This is what the first sentence of the committee is. It's not the father and mother are not, father, parents are not able to tell the children, you can't go and riot in the roads. That's something very interesting. This is around 2015 itself. And there are more households in Britain today with television sets than with husbands. There are more households. So that is the type of societal crisis which is being faced by them. There are more, what one can loosely call caskets than there are cradles. A lot of people are growing old and much lesser in terms of new birth. So there is a, total, fertility rate is less than 1.5 in many of these countries. So there is a huge global crisis, and they began to, import a lot of labor Originally, Merkel told that we will have cultural identity with all the new people who are coming from, but they imported, one shouldn't say that, but mostly labor from North Africa and various other countries, including Afghanistan, Pakistan, and other things. So the multiculturalism was not really working for them. So there is a big crisis being faced in each one of the European countries, wherein they have to face this issue of migrants who are not integrating. Merkel, at the time of retirement, told the multiculturalism has failed. So there is a big problem facing all these countries today. So we have a situation where India is one of the few countries, believe me, which is fastest growing in the world. Of course, recently Trump, in his anger, told it's a dead economy and other thing, which is not to be taken seriously. Even our opposition leader took the same line that it's a dead, which is not actually. We are the fastest growing economy, and IMF says 20% of the global growth is going to come from India. So our challenges are completely different, and the recent information suggests our GDP growth will definitely be above 6%, which is highest in the world today. Actually, most of the European countries are struggling with 1%, 2%, another thing. On purchasing power parity basis, we are the third largest in the world. First is US, second is first is China, second is US, third is India. On nominal basis, without adjusting for inflation and foreign exchange and other thing, we are the fourth largest. China, US, Germany, and then India. So this is the current type of a position. We have many positive things in our. So first we can look at that before we go into the other aspects. Some of the major achievements are not recognized by us because we have a tendency of not recognizing anything we have achieved. This is very important. We have a sort of peculiar type of an attitude regarding that. For instance, a simple thing like if you had traveled in railways in before 1992, many of us, of that age, we would have done that. We have to meet that black coat man in order to get a seat and bribe him, basically, who is called a TTE. I'm talking about pre 92. The cabinet minister at Delhi used to tell the general managers of railways who should be appointed as TTE in which station. Believe me, Shialda, you put this man, Calcutta Central, you put this man, Howrah, you put this man, Bombay Central, you put this man, Madras Central, like that. The cabinet minister used to telephonically instruct the because these TTE posts were considered in those days as ATM post, any all-time money type of a post. Now, software was introduced around 92, 93, and after that, complete change has come about. Today, there is no demand to be a TTE in any one of these stations or anything. It's a huge tectonic change which has come about in our rail travel. My students say they don't even have to show a printed ticket. They can just show their mobile phone and what is information available in that. That's enough. This is major revolution which we have done we are a developing country. We are not such a, but one important lesson from this is we are not inventors, but we are able to adapt to inventions which are already taken place. We didn't find the elementary software code and other thing, but we know how to use what has been already done. Another you can take example is the passport office. Passport always used to be through an intermediary or an agent. Unless you catch hold of an agent, you can't get the passport done. But not anymore. Now in the internet, you can go and then fix the time and then pay the money, get the passport. Many of the municipalities are collecting taxes using net-based payment. So you don't have to visit a municipal office in order to make a payment. In other words, technology has facilitated a reduction in corruption. This is something which we have to recognize and we have to appreciate. And extra point is EVM. Nowhere in the world they have created what we have done in terms of voting machine. Each one of them is like a calculator. They are not connected with any internet or anything, and they cannot be tampered with. And this has been certified by various international and domestic people. But we always complain that EVM machines are the one which decide the result and other thing. We throw mud on our own head. It's a EVM itself, I can tell you, is a 2 billion US dollar market waiting all over the world for us from various small countries, not just for their elections in political election, also parent-teacher meet. For instance, a country in US, everything they use voting. Currently, they are using only the paper voting. In Atlanta, where I was there as a visiting faculty, they were planning to have a parent-teacher meeting. Somebody suggested, for voting, why don't we use Indian EVMs? There was a enthusiastic response, but some people told no, in their own country they are criticizing that these are not reliable, etc. And the plan was dropped. Same thing was done in 1980 regarding our ink, which is used before polling. Our forefinger is provided with it. That ink is made in Mysore. It's a very, very good thing which we could have exported. But we domestically created such a scare that it can be removed and manipulated and other thing. Nobody was buying. And some country, believe me, like Indonesia, some other countries in Latin America, they produce some sort of not exactly that type of ink, but something similar. And they are the ones which are. So we have a uncanny ability to deride our own achievements. So facing the future challenge, one of the important thing is we should appreciate what has been achieved, and we should be in a position to tell others in the world that this is possible. That's one thing. But more important is some reforms are required. Major reforms which are required is in the area of our friend was Surya Prakash was telling about rights and duties. I don't think anybody talks about duties in India. We have mosquito rights, we have rights for trees, we have rights for dogs, we have rights for women. Nobody talks about duties, because when you enter from out abroad to any Indian what one can call airport, the huge board which says is duty free. That is the first thing which you see in India. You are very happy that you have landed in a country which is totally duty free. So there is not much of importance on duties, and more important is the amount of corruption in the whole world. We are one interesting country where laws are not taught as it is. We have what is known as taxation laws and practice. We have contract laws and practice. We have other type of laws and practice. I always used to wonder, other countries they have just tax laws, they have just contract laws. Why we have this laws and practice? I checked with, so one of the senior lawyers told me that practice is our primary thing. The way in which we modify the law, the practice is the bribe part of the activity. So we have laws, we have practice. So it's not something which we should be proud of. And large amount of our laws are on the books. Let me be very blunt about it. And large amount of our lower judiciary is extremely corrupt. This is, I am not, I can, of course, I hope I am not taken to task and immediately arrested or anything. But this is the perception. The lawyers themselves say, you wait for the other judge. He will be, we will be having lesser charge compared to this judge. That is the type of, we have a system where a judge in his annex room had a huge bundles of currency, some of which was burnt. And there is some discussion going on and on and on whether it is right or whether it is wrong, or and I am sure sooner or later it will come into what caste he belongs, what religion he belongs to. So one simple method by which to save the citizen is have a law that any amount excess of rupees 5 lakh nobody can possess. If you have more than 5 lakh, it's a crime by itself. No need for anybody to justify that it is disproportionate, etc., of your income. So that is simplest thing which has been suggested by the finance ministry itself in their report as early as 2009. And unfortunately, I don't think anybody is serious about this because all corruption is bribery is in cash only so far, not through check or anything. And with the adoption of this GPay and other thing. Even my flower vendor is taking it not in cash but in the form of Paytm. So it's possible to implement such a strict law in terms of. Then the another one is judicial reform. I think it's a must. Average cases go to 6 years, 7 years, another thing. And the Supreme Court, I cannot imagine. They worry about the height of Dahi and how much the Dahi and height should be there. Or somebody writes an Innal letter on this Ananta Padmanabha Swami temple in Trivandrum. Immediately it is taken up as a major issue. And an Amias Kuri is appointed and he is asked to go there and open all the treasures. I think I shouldn't use such a strong word. Our Supreme Court has lost its direction, lost its mooring about what it is meant for. It is not meant to measure the height of Dahi Handi and Bombay Krishna Jayanti festivals. I think all type of thing they enter into, and increasingly I'm finding, I should be frank about it, that many of the judges want to have higher TRP. That is becoming a some sort of a competition among judges. So we require massive amount of judicial reform. Cases cannot carry on for 7 years and 8 years. Yeah, I am very puzzled that intrigued, I would say, that the cases are going on in court for 7 years, but they are telling President of India that you should decide within 1 month. This I cannot understand how much amount of contradictory thinking is going on there. The third most important thing is the political reforms. Nobody talks about it. Let me be very honest. 25 families are having control of political system in this country, headed by Congress. All others are family-owned businesses. Whether you have Sheikh Abdullah, Farooq Abdullah, or whether you have Mulayam Singh Yadav, or Lalu Yadav and his children, Mulayam and his children, or your KCR and his children, Devagowda and his children, Karunanand, all of them are family enterprises according to me. And they hand over the family enterprise, that political party, to their children. And their children is becoming a neta. I think this is a very, very obnoxious type of a system we have encouraged. We don't question this. How can family enterprise become a political party? And so as long as public support them, as long as they win election, you give 1,000 rupee, you give 5,000 rupee to every voter, you will win election. It's not something which is top secret or anything. Or you generate enthusiasm based on language or based on caste. One of the two things, standard weapons in India, very easy to use and make people emotional, because many of the people use their heart, not their brain, in order to deal with politics. So political reforms are important. Judicial reforms are a must. And there is a important thing is to look at this corruption issue. It eats away the wealth of our nation. And the ease of doing business is not conducting seminars at Delhi. You can conduct any number of seminars. Shops and Establishment Act, Food and Adulteration Act, ease of doing business, trade license. So many of these are there. which can be easily abolished if you ask me. Nothing will happen. So self-regulation and self type of a discipline. This is something which we should inculcate, and then only abolishing corruption automatically will reduce your potholes on roads as well as waterlogging. Every city in this country is stinking. The amount of what one can call the corruption, which is eating away, and every sort of monsoon, we say, oh, 130 years, this is the highest rain. Who knows whether your equipment which are measuring that is properly measuring or not? God only knows. We claim that 300 years which are, and immediately we say Macaulay, immediately we say Mughals, and the current type of damage which you have done to every one of the towns, you cannot blame on any of the past emperors and other things. It's simply we have to blame the current family-based political businesses which are making money. If it is one road to be put for 100 lakh, at least 60 lakh I am told is eaten away. The remaining are all sand and mud. So the infrastructure of all the cities, not just one city, I am talking about every one of the cities in the country is stinking, is sinking actually. And so we have to focus on major type of reforms in our country at the grassroots level. Let me again and again say, it's not enough that you say that we have abolished license for people who make fancy cars and other. That's okay, nothing wrong about it. But more important is at the local level. My vegetable vendor should be in a position to do business without worrying, paying a bribery, thievery, and thuggery. This is what is the critical thing. So facing the future is not an impossible task. We have faced it for the last so many years, but now we have to seriously think in terms of where are we standing? What is our nature of the state? What is the nature of the cops? What is the nature of the judiciary system? What is the nature of the political system? I think the basic questioning should be from the grassroots level, from the bottom level. Then only we will be able to achieve something which is very positive by 2047. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Seema, for providing this opportunity. And if you had hurt any of the legal profession people, it is intentional. Let me tell it very frankly. I wanted to, don't say that why did you criticize our, because it's a reeking with you know unbelievable level of obnoxious type of things. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Seema ji. Thank you, of course, Gunjan. And thanks, Ikra, for that nice introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts on GDP and comparing it to the global level and the urgent reforms that needed to align our rights and duties in practice. Your insight on the gap between the law in the books and in the implementation and the challenges of the corruption that you have described, how it's eating our country resources, and the pressing need for judicial reforms were truly thought provoking. You have not only helped us to understand the economics principles, but also direct connection to the governance and accountability and responsibility as a citizen. And I'm sure all of us, especially the students here, have gained a deeper perspective on how law, policy, and economics intersect each other. Your lecture has given us to reflect upon and act upon as a citizen of this country. Thank you, sir. Now, to make this session even more engaging, I'd like to open the floor for questions. So I'd like to ask participants to ask questions by raising their hands. And I guess this is the opportunity to engage directly with the speakers and to clarify whatever queries you have and to delve with deeper understanding in the ideas that has been shared. So let's begin with the Q&A session. Yes, anyone have any question?
You just raise your hand. Whoever want to ask the question, na? Just raise your hand.
Just raise your hand. Yes.
Anurag Deep sir. Sir, please introduce yourself also, sir.
I guess sir is on mute.
सो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद तीनों जो विद्वान हैं उनका, और बड़ा थॉट प्रोवोकिंग लेक्चर रहा। और मुझे कहा जाए तो मैं आधे घंटे और बोल सकता हूँ तीनों के लेक्चर्स को, क्रिटिकल स्टडी अगर मुझे करना हो तो। मेरा क्वेश्चन जो है ये है कि जब ऑब्जेक्टिव रिजोल्यूशन कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में आया, जवाहरलाल नेहरू लाए, तो उस रिजोल्यूशन में उन्होंने जो बात कही थी उसका 8वां जो बिंदु था वो पढ़ रहा हूँ आपके सामने। 13 दिसंबर 1946 का है ये, और उन्होंने कहा कि वन ऑफ द रिजोल्यूशन इज दैट दिस एंशिएंट लैंड attains its rightful and honored place in the world and make its full and willing contribution to the promotion of world peace and welfare of mankind. So this was very well in the mind of all persons or all dignitaries who were engaged in making of the constitution. Why then we continued with Macaulay's system of education, which included distorted history, colonial polity, British law, Western sociology, etc., which is mostly written with colonial mindset, with a disdain to Indian tradition, rich history, and dharma-based polity. 13 December 1946, before the constitution came, we had a resolution, point 8 clearly says this ancient land attains its rightful and honored place. So was it just an empty promise made to India, or what happened that we moved to a different direction and we did not care for our ancient wisdom? Thank you very much.
Sir, you want this answer to any specific resource person?
I request all three if they can honor me with their answers.
Okay. Surya Prakash sir, I think you raised your hand to answer this question.
My answer is very simple. The first, my observation is in my talk where I shared my instincts and observations. In our ancient land, the education system, the alternative education system, was that every temple should be attached with a school, that is Gurukulas. That we have totally demolished. Temple is for cultural activity, religious activity, education. There are so many other activities that are revolving around the temples. So we made temples only for darshan. And my friend Anurag Deep has given the answer also in his question. In his while putting the question, he raised the answer also. Are these only an empty promise? You only had said that this is an empty promise. Yes, the objectives resolution, they have carefully avoided the ancient system of education, the ancient system of other activities and many other things. So it's only an empty promise. Okay. It's an empty promise, which was never taken seriously for performance. Okay, this is my response.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. If other speakers can also share their thoughts.
Sir, I think a few of them have to leave quickly. So can we take few more questions? One
Yes,
question
please.
from Dr. Kumar ji.
Let me, Seema ji, let me reply because I have a meeting to Anurag Deep's query. A dear friend of mine who shifted from my parent institution to Delhi. What you have quoted just now, fine. Let me start with one thing. Yeah, and you'll get the answer, but you have to dig deep. And I don't have that much of a time. I mean, even the organizers don't have that much of a time to keep us discussing. Dr. Surya Prakash ji pointed out on the Gurukul system and the type of education that was going on. So what the distortion has done, there are three very important works that need to be seen. One is by B.D. Basu, the Indian education system. The other work was done by Dharampal. And the third, both have been pushed out in the second era of the Macaulay Revolution from the shelves of the Indian libraries. Fine. And there's a huge, I can speak in hours, I can discuss hours and hours on this issue. And the third one was latest has come out. It is a publication of 224 by one Professor Pramila V. Rao, Zakir Hussain Center, JNU. Now, this gives us the data, the real data, archival data. There are three kinds of data in the archives. A, the reports of the officials of the East India Company. Then second is the data regarding the changes being made by the East India Company 1813 onwards and later on by the Macallan system. And third is classified as C, regarding what was the process of change and all those things. Now, A is important. The settlement reports by the officials of the East India Company ranges from 1770 down to 1813. They have covered the area of, we have the records now, they are being published in 2024 again by Pramila V. Rao. That the Indian system, the way it has been projected post 1947, it's a complete distortion. The education, it has nothing to do with who can study and who cannot study. There's nothing to do who are the teachers and who are not the teachers. There's nothing to do regarding the state intervention in the Indian education system. I'm pointing out to three things. Fine. It is only after 1833 the changes started occurring. Now, the resolution, I have seen that resolution, what you have quoted, and you have texted me also. The only thing from where I started is, you said, why are we not getting away from the Macallan system? I'm using two words only. One is religion and philosophy, and the other is dharma and darshan. The whole textual meaning of everything changes. Fine. These are the intricacies. These are the questions that we have to understand and on which we need to discuss and debate. So once you change everything to the dharma and darshan, the whole narrative shifts. And once you talk about the religion and the philosophy, then the connotations are very different. So the system of education that came up in India, you will be shocked to hear this thing. I'm telling you about based on the archival data. The schooling system and the education, what the British Raj was giving, in few of the native states, it was far ahead than what British Raj was giving. Let me be very frank in telling you, and I can quote you with all the data. The princely states education system of some of the princely states was far, far ahead and far better than what was going on. Whereas Macaulay is concerned, we are not adverse to the idea. आपको तो ऋग्वेद 187.91 याद ही होगा अपने parent institution का, Ano Bhadra, let the good thoughts come from all the sides. We are not shut down to the good thoughts. हम उसके लिए बंद ही नहीं है. We are cosmopolitan by our nature and ethos. This is a beauty. So that cosmopolitanism has to be understood in positive senses, not in the negative senses. So the plan on paper and the plan which has been implemented, it needs a better cohesion. What I started with, until and unless you have a Bharat Bodh, what Bharat is, the Kartavya Bodh in text only is not going to serve the purpose. This is the contextuality of the thing that I wanted to answer to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Himanshu sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anurag sir. Mahendra sir, please introduce yourself and ask your question. Please unmute yourself, sir.
I, Dr. Mahendra Kumar, Assistant Professor Law, Ramswarup Memorial University, Lucknow. I am audible?
Yes, you are audible.
इस पर पढ़ने से मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है कि जैसे हम बहुत क्रिटिसाइज करते हैं कि हम जो है अंग्रेजों के पीरियड के मैकाले के पीरियड के लॉ के द्वारा हिस्ट्री के द्वारा रेगुलेट हो रहे हैं, इंडियन कल्चर एंड फिलोसफी को भूलते जा रहे हैं और पैटर्न भी हमें वही फॉलो अप किया गया। मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि अभी भारतीय साक्ष्य अधिनियम बनाया गया जो 1872 का था। आफ्टर 2 सेंचुरी हम इसे लाए हैं नियर अबाउट। लॉर्ड मैकाले के समय का भारतीय दंड संहिता इंडियन पीनल कोड को रिप्लेस करके भारतीय न्याय संहिता लाया गया और नागरिक सुरक्षा संहिता वो भी अप्रॉक्स 100 ईयर बाद लाया गया। क्या अगर हम एक क्रिटिसाइज करते हैं कि हम बहुत मैकाले के पीरियड के अंग्रेजों के पीरियड को लॉ के द्वारा रेगुलेट हो रहे हैं और सीजन के बेस पर उसे रिप्लेस करके हम लॉ ला रहे हैं और 95% मोर देन 95% प्रोविजन आर सेम, ओनली 5% प्रोविजन को ऐड करने के लिए हमने उसे रिप्लेस किए। तो किस बेस पे हम ये चैलेंज, इसका मतलब वी आर नॉट कैपेबल टू फ्रेम एनी लॉ। बनाया गया वह लॉ किसी बाउंड नहीं था, वह यूनिवर्सल ट्रूथ जो होते थे जिसके रिगार्डिंग किसी सिस्टम को रेगुलेट होना चाहिए उसको हम भी फॉलो कर रहे हैं। मेरी तो खुद गारंटी है, हम किसी भी इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट पूरे वर्ल्ड का कहीं पढ़ लें तो हम मोर देन 80% प्रोविजन सेम पाएंगे, चाहे वो अमेरिका का हो, चाहे इंग्लैंड का हो, चाहे इंडिया का हो। मैक्सिमम 20% ही चेंज होगा। फैक्ट की अगर डिफिनीशन दी गई है, अपने ज्ञानेंद्रियों का जरा जिसका हम अनुभव करते हैं वही फैक्ट है। इससे बेटर जो है डिफिनीशन कौन दे देगा? इंटेलिजेंसी किसी ज्योग्राफी से हमको लगता है
सर अपने क्वेश्चन तक कन्फाइन रहिए क्योंकि कुछ और लोगों को भी पूछना है। आपका क्वेश्चन किसी स्पेसिफिक स्पीकर से है?
इसी में हाईलाइट चाहता हूँ कि जो लोग कहते हैं कॉलोनियल इरा के लॉ के द्वारा हम रेगुलेट कर रहे हैं, तो 3 लॉ हमने रिप्लेस किए, तो हमने उसे इंडियन इरा के या इंडियन कल्चर के या इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट के रिगार्डिंग प्रोविजन हम क्यों नहीं रख पाए? इसका मतलब हमें क्रिटिसिज्म का राइट नहीं है, तो किस बेस पर क्रिटिसिज्म कर रहे हैं?
ठीक है। सूर्य प्रकाश सर, हिमांशु सर, वैद्यनाथन सर, एनी ऑफ यू और एनीबॉडी एल्स? यस सर।
What is the question? If you don't mind, Seemaji, can you repeat?
Sir, he is asking that recently the government has introduced all the 3 criminal laws, but in all the 3 criminal laws, majority of the provisions are still, contained by from this old IPC and the old criminal law. So how we can criticize them if once we got the opportunity and we didn't change the things as per our philosophy and requirement?
No, according to me, the problem is more fundamental. Law and practice are not aligned in India. This is the only country where laws are there in the books. Practice is something different. In every other country, when a law is passed, it is automatically assumed everybody will practice it. There is stiff opposition as long as the law is passed. Once the law is passed in the assembly or parliament or whatever it is, everybody follows it. But I don't think here, for instance, I will give you a simple example. One education discussion was taking place in an assembly.
No, sir. Hello.
About education matter.
My question is different.
And they wanted to have, and I had a person with me who was running several colleges. I asked this man, are you not concerned about what is being discussed in the assembly? And they are going to pass so many regulations and other thing which will impact you. He smiled at me and told, Professor, they will debate and pass something. It doesn't matter. We will run as we like it. This is exactly the word he told. So there is a huge gap between laws and practice. I think this I have been telling, and many people refuse. So they go on telling, amend the laws, change the law. You do change the law, you amend the law, you do anything. The fellows who practice it are the ones who are very confident of doing what they want to do. So this is my humble submission.
Surya sir, it's over to you now.
Yes, yes. Dr. Mahendra, your question is regarding why we have not changed. Please remember, in the entire context of culture, law is a subculture. Law is subculture in the society. And with good and bad things of Indian Penal Code, and I do consider even till today, the original Indian Evidence Act is one of the best enactments in the entire world. The entire world. So when we are making new laws, it doesn't mean that so far what we have followed is entirely trash. Theft is theft, murder is murder, rape is rape. But these laws, they were passed on by the first law commission 1834. The chairman was Lord Macaulay. Okay. And 1860 onwards, this IPC has come into force. But the nature of offenses in 1860 and the nature of offenses in 2024, 25, they are totally different. Even the criminals, they are very much advanced. And the new technologies has emerged. So, with the new technologies and new kinds of offenses, and the moral values has gone down, mob lynching, gang rapes, and all these things, they have to be addressed. So, while retaining one most important provisions, we have also added the new provisions and we have changed the title, Indianized, customized.
सर हमें तो
भारतीय
इंडियनाइज कहीं दिखा नहीं। आप अगर कह सकते हैं सोसाइटी की रिक्वायरमेंट के अनुसार हमने चेंज किया, तो आप कोई इंडियन नहीं, किसी हिस्ट्री का कोई ला बना सकते हैं?
सुनिए सुनिए सुनिए,
सुन लीजिए एक बार सर।
ऐसा नहीं है कि हमने नया एक्ट लाने से पुराने पुराने मैं यही इसलिए मैंने बताया, रेप इज रेप, मर्डर इज मर्डर, डकैती इज
5%
डकैती।
अगर किसी लॉ में 5% चेंज की तो कैसे लॉ रिप्लेस कर सकते हैं?
तो मैं
अगर आप किसी लॉ में 5% चेंज नहीं कर पा रहे हैं तो लॉ पे
अच्छा, यू वांट
किया जा सकता है।
Sir, Surya sir and Mahendra ji, we are not here the representative of the government. You are asking a question and we are replying. If you are satisfied, then that is fine. Otherwise, it is better to ask this question to the government. We are giving only our opinion, so let him speak first. Other we cannot argue because we have to take few other questions also.
गवर्नमेंट के लिए भी ऐसा नहीं होता। रेप का दूसरा परिभाषा क्या होता है, मर्डर का क्या परिभाषा क्या होता है। इसलिए जो है वो तो है, जो नया ऑफेंसेस आया उसके लिए लाया गया और टाइटल को कस्टमाइज करके दंड संहिता, भारतीय दंड संहिता किया या साक्ष्य अधिनियम, instead of giving English titles we have given our titles in Hindi or in our own language. ठीक है, इससे ज्यादा चिंता मत कीजिए।
Very right. And
okay,
we have many other questions also, and I think that jurisprudential interpretation is more important than the words. So words cannot be changed, but jurisprudence can obviously be changed. So we will take a few more questions. Please keep your question very crisp and clear. Romesh, do you want to ask any question?
Yeah. I just wanted to place a thought process, or you can say it's a question to everybody. In fact, especially the panelists, my lord. So I'm Romesh Dave, Deputy Solicitor General of India in High Court of Madhya Pradesh. मेरा आप सभी शिक्षक गणों से एक विनम्र सवाल है कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन असेंबली के अंदर जब हमने फंडामेंटल राइट्स और फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज की बात करी, फंडामेंटल राइट को तो हमने इन्फोर्सिएबल रखा और फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज को इन्फोर्सिएबल नहीं रखा। और आज भी जब हम पढ़ाते हैं, आप किसी भी यूनिवर्सिटी के सिलेबस में जब जाते हैं तो आप ये देखते होंगे कि हमारा सबसे ज्यादा एम्फेसिस होता है फंडामेंटल राइट के ऊपर। नाउ इट हैज बीन मोर देन 75 years हैव कंप्लीटेड। आज की तारीख में फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज के बारे में बात करने के लिए हमको एक सीरीज करनी पड़ रही है। तो क्या हमारे जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल लॉ फ्रेमर्स थे उनके दिमाग में आप लोगों के हिसाब से क्या थॉट प्रोसेस रही होगी कि उन्होंने फंडामेंटल राइट्स को तो इन्फोर्सिएबल रखा इन द कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ, बट फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज को नहीं रखा। इफ एनीबडी, एनी वन ऑफ यू कैन enlighten us on that.
Surya sir.
अच्छा,
I think.
या
हाँ सर, ओके।
नाउ इट्स ओके। देवेश जी ने बहुत अच्छा प्रश्न पूछा। सर, when the constitution was drafted, most of the educated, they have the Western thoughts, in the sense that the 20th century, in the beginning, most of these educated in London or in England or UK, including the chairman, and the need of those that day, it was the political rights. And that's the reason why the more emphasis was provided on political rights and civil rights. And whereas fundamental duties are concerned, initially fundamental duties, they are not included in the constitution. They are, I think, 42nd amendment, during the time of emergency, fundamental duties came into existence. The Western jurisprudence, it is a rights-based jurisprudence, and whereas our jurisprudence is dharma-based. Dharma is basically revolves around duties rather than protesting for rights. That's number one. Number two, I cannot exactly remember the name of the member. One member has used the phrase and warned the other members, why are you having Hindu phobia? That's the reason I am very careful whether I was hesitant whether I should use, because everybody is praising the constitution. One member has used the phrase that the backdrop of the constitution, making of the constitution, is Hindu phobia. That means the context that is regarding all members. If you read the first few pages, first few meetings, everyone was so much bothered and worried about the non-presence of Jinnah and Muslim League. And they have been, because remember, the Constituent Assembly meeting started somewhere in 1946, continued till 1949, for 2 years, 10 months, almost for 3 years. So, because these are Western minds, because they are very much influenced, because may or may not be right that the backdrop of the making of the Indian Constitution is Hindu phobia. That's it. Probably that might be the reason. All Hindu philosophy, ancient knowledge, principles, they were not part of the Indian Constitution. That's the reason why even the fundamental duties, it is very, very unfortunate that fundamental duties also should have been from the day one of the Constitution, but it was not there for whatever may be the reasons. The fundamental duties chapter 51A was added in the 1970s during the time of emergency. So this is the reason, sir.
Thank you, because whatever we have learned so far is that कि भारत में जो भी एजुकेशन सिस्टम था, इट वाज ऑलवेज ऑन ड्यूटी बेस्ड एजुकेशन सिस्टम, एज यू सेड, लाइक धर्मा, और है ना। और जब हम हमारे मॉडर्न एजुकेशन सिस्टम में आए, या आज भी हम बच्चों को जब लॉ पढ़ाते हैं या सोशल साइंस पढ़ा रहे हैं, तो हम वो राइट बेस्ड एजुकेशन सिस्टम पर आते हैं।
जी।
सो बीइंग अ एकेडमिशियंस, आप सभी लोगों को, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हम क्या ऐसा कोई सजेशन कहीं दे सकते हैं या इस चीज को इन्वॉल्व कर सकते हैं कि इसको अगेन वी कैन मेक इट ड्यूटी बेस्ड एजुकेशन सिस्टम।
आपका सजेशन सही आ रहा है रमेश जी।
My Sima ji, just 2 minutes. I want to, because I am little bit hesitant. I am also in state of Madhya Pradesh. So, for example, योगी आदित्यनाथ जी ने एक फरमान निकाला, मदरसास को बंद कर दीजिए, ठीक है। There are some 12,000 मदरसास को. The people, they went to court Supreme Court में गया, and then they got the relief. Who prevented, my simple question, who prevented any government, whether it is Yogi Ji government or any other government, to start your own Hindu Gurukulas? We are not saying let every temple should have a Gurukula, and let there be some, along with all other social studies, biology, maths, physics, chemistry. ये भी थोड़ा संस्कार का भी आप ध्यान दीजिए. Let this shall be the duty of the state. What prevented the state? When you are take over the temple, let every temple have a Gurukula. Let it be funded by the state, because majority population there, it is only Hindu money. When you can give maintenance grants to the madrasas and the other minority schools, this is also completely constitutional. If the government establish Hindu Gurukulas and if they teach dharma-based education, this is entirely constitutional. This is not unlawful. We never thought in this direction. Let any one government start, let every temple should have a Gurukula, right from first class to fifth class, and then fifth class, sixth class to at least 10th class. Then let them go to the colleges. Like this, we can bring some reforms. We can introduce our culture-based education. I'm not saying that Vedic education. I'm saying culture-based education, where we can imbibe our values, teach our children our values. Okay, sir? There is no bar.
There is no bar, because we all are on the same page.
Romesh bhai, बहुत सारे आपके hand raise हैं. I think we should take few other questions.
Okay.
Shailin sir, please अपना mic mute कर दीजिए. Shailin sir, please mute yourself. Swarnlata ma'am, you can ask your question.
हाँ, नमस्ते मैडम. मैं सभी को मेरा नमस्कार. मैं छत्तीसगढ़ रविशंकर शुक्ल यूनिवर्सिटी से हूँ. मेरा स्पेशलाइजेशन लॉ तो नहीं है, बट फंडामेंटल राइट्स के बारे में कुछ पूछना चाहती हूँ. और मैं फार्मास्यूटिकल साइंसेस की प्रोफेसर हूँ. अभी एजुकेशन सिस्टम की बात हो रही थी, तो एजुकेशन सिस्टम में हमने जो सिलेबस बनाए हुए हैं, अभी जो हमारे नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी है, अभी उसमें भारतीय कल्चर और भारतीयता से ओत प्रोत वाला जो हमें पढ़ाना है, और अभी हम बोर्ड ऑफ स्टडीज में भी बहुत चेंजेस कर रहे हैं, और बच्चों के बारे में बात कि उनमें ये कल्चरल डिफरेंसेस आए, कल्चरल चीजें आई जो हमारी पुराने गुरुकुलल सिस्टम में थी. और आज हमारे पास गुरुकुल सिस्टम है भी, जो हमारे मंदिर हुआ करते थे, और हम सनातन परंपरा को मानने वाले लोग हैं. जैसे कि अभी कल ही कुछ 26 से 28 दिसंबर में ही अभी कुछ बोला गया है कि हम ऑलरेडी हिंदू राष्ट्र हैं, हमें स्थापित करने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. मैम एजुकेशन सिस्टम में मैडम जो सेंट्रल से पास होता है उसको स्टेट में लाने, मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि स्टेट में लाने के लिए किसी भी सिस्टम में क्या करना चाहिए. मेरा ये अपने लॉ के लोगों से ये जानकारी है. मैं एक नेशनल उसमें स्टैट्यूटरी बॉडी में भी नेशनल और इंटरनेशनल बॉडीज में रही हूँ. हमने इंटरनेशनली क्या होता है, जैसा कि आई एम ओके विद वन ऑफ द पैनलिस्ट, कि इंटरनेशनल सिस्टम में ये होता है कि हम इंटरनेशनल सिस्टम में जो होता है वो तुरंत मान लिया जाता है, जैसे पास हो वो मान लेते हैं. आई एम एग्री विद द वैद्यनाथन सर. लेकिन हमारी जो भारतीय पद्धति है, भारतीय पद्धति में मैंने फार्मेसी काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया में काम किया, वाज एजुकेशन रेगुलेशन में काम किया. जैसे ही हमने पूरे यूनिफाइड सिलेबस बना लिया, तो उसको हम वन डे में गजट नोटिफिकेशन 14 में निकलने के बाद वो तुरंत इम्प्लीमेंट हो गया. प्रॉब्लम्स आई एंड वी हैव सॉल्व ऑल द प्रॉब्लम. इस तरह से सारे स्टेट्स में अगर कोई गजट नोटिफिकेशन निकलता है तो स्टेट वाले क्यों नहीं कर सकते हैं? इस पर क्या हम कर सकते हैं? अगर वो इम्प्लीमेंट कैसे होगा, इसके लिए कुछ प्रकाश डालेंगे तो मेरा मार्गदर्शन होगा कि हाउ आई कैन डू.
सीमा जी, मैं यहाँ सर.
हाँ प्लीज सर, प्लीज.
Namaste, madam. Siraf, madam.
जी.
We are on the same page.
जी.
The first thing is we are on the same page. And the second thing, what you have still, ब्रिटिश वाले तो चला गया, वो जो गुलामी मानसिकता जो है वो अभी भी हमारे डीएनए का पार्ट है. I will give you very simple example which I faced few days back in Delhi airport. I am standing in the queue, the domestic terminal. and suddenly 2 Englishmen with some wife or daughters, they came. And the CISF fellow, they are not VIPs, because they are just like any other passenger. And CISF fellow, he removed that thread and allowed them directly. No, they have no special concessions, only because of color. I had to confront with the CISF fellow. When I asked him, questioned him, he said that, अरे आप भी चले जाइए सर. अरे मैं जाना नहीं जाना वो बात नहीं है. ये गुलामी मानसिकता कब तक? अब तक गोरे चमड़े देखते ही गुलाम बन जाओगे. So this is what we consider हमारा लस्सी से कोको कोला अच्छा है. सच में वो नहीं है, लेकिन ये फैशन है. Whatever we import, if we follow the Western, that is more beautiful, and then you will be considered as you are a cultured fellow. मैं ये किताब देखा आंध्रा में इंग्लिश मीडियम का, ABCD, A for apple, B for bed, जहाँ जेंटलमैन आया, द पर्सन विथ ए सूट एंड बूट हैट ए जेंटलमैन. मेरा दादा जो है वो धोती पहनता है, वो जेंटलमैन नहीं है क्या? तो ये है, ऐसा है इंग्लिश सिस्टम ऑफ एजुकेशन. जो भी वेस्टर्न का है हम सोचते हैं वो हमारी भावना है, वो हमारी गुलामी मानसिकता है. हम उससे भी बाहर आने की जरूरत है. आप और हम सेम पेज पे है. मैं अपना समाज
सर इंडिया में लस्सी मिलना शुरू हो गया है.
नहीं, we have to make representations to our ministers, to the cabinet. भाई साहब, आप मंदिर के साथ साथ एक गुरुकुल भी खोल दीजिए. सेकुलर स्कूल उसको रहने दीजिए. जिसको सेकुलर स्कूल में जाना है वो वहीं जाएगा. जो हमारा संस्कार, भारतीय संस्कार, ये सब पढ़ना चाहते हैं, सीखना चाहते हैं, वो गुरुकुल में जाएगा. उसमें क्या गलती है?
Swarnalata ji,
सर
in simple words,
sir,
our umbilical cords are tied to the West. Let's be very blunt about it.
That's right, sir. That's right, sir.
Right. Or we are genetically, we always say look east, but our face is turned to the west only.
West.
So it's not going to be easy. 70 years we have been used to that. You know, so many things are linked with that. Most of the top bureaucrat children are in the West. Most of the
Sir, Vedyanathan, sir, we are running short of time.
So
we will
no, I just wanted to mention that we are tied to the West.
Right.
Suddenly you cannot overnight change this.
Agree, sir.
There are many people who have raised their hand.
Now we are proud of it that we are doing and we are taking a good decision by the decision taken by our leader. Now.
Sir, we will take a ma'am, sorry, I'm interrupting you. We will take last question from Ikra. Ikra, please ask your question. This is going to be the last question for the session, and after that we will conclude. Over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, my question is for S. Surya Prakash, sir. Sir, as you talked about the cultural identity and how religious institution plays a crucial role in preserving cultural identity. So my question is, when legal framework seems to conflict with the cultural preservation, like how should the law balance protecting these cultural institutions or religious education while simultaneously holding constitutional equality and fundamental rights? Like how can we ensure that the safeguarding culture doesn't come at the cost of justice? Like because, as you said, these rights are constitutionally protected, but these rights still remain selectively granted only when religious institutions conform to the state-approved content and language. This undermines the curricular autonomy, leaving them unrecognized but on the terms dictated by the state. So, what's your thought on this?
See, when I am speaking about the religious education, cultural identity doesn't mean that we are discarding all other the modern education. Along with modern education, what are the cultural values, religious values? They also must be taught. Let me tell my own personal example. In our childhood, the school starts with Saraswati Mandana, and then in the high school there are periods of moral period. That means teachers, they used to teach only and private schools. So if we won't teach moral values, because it is the duty of the present generation to pass on the culture and cultural values to the next generation. So there is absolutely, if you see in the constitution, civil and cultural and religious rights. And though Article 25, 26 speaks about the cultural and religious rights. Yeah, 29, cultural and educational rights, protection of interests of minorities. My simple question is that the constitution speaks about only the cultural and educational rights of minorities, whether the majority people, they have no culture, they have no cultural rights. How this will be going against the principles of constitution or fundamental rights? So everybody has a right to protect their culture, and let the modern education be with the religious education. The cultural values, morality, it won't come from the space. It comes from religious texts only. For a particular religion, they will have their own text. X religion will have X text, and Y religion will have Y text. And whatever the religious values, that becomes their culture. What I mean to say is that modern education, it should be balanced. I'm not speaking about other, I'm speaking about Hindu religion. The modern education also should have a part of cultural education. If without cultural education, finally what will happen, whatever Bollywood shows is the culture. If you want to destroy a race, you destroy its culture. That's what's happening. Absolutely, it is not unlawful, it is not unconstitutional. And it is not cultural identity. Now, even now also, X person is identified with his religion, with his caste. That is also cultural identity. इससे क्या फर्क पड़ने वाला है? SCs are identified, BCs are identified according to the constitution. उसमें क्या unrest है? उसमें क्या conflict है? कुछ नहीं. Everybody will get according to their rights provided under the constitution. Only when culture is to be added, which was deprived, those who are deprived, those who are denied their right. And even the constitution is also so mischievously put. The title of the part is article just above Article 29, culture and educational rights. This is the title, subtitle. And Article 29 speaks about protection of interests of minorities. And you should have stated that these are the cultural educational rights of minorities only. Title is a general title, and inside Article 29 and 30 speaks about only minorities. And there is not even a single letter or single article in the Constitution which speaks about the protection of non-minority or the majority cultural rights. Does it mean that others, they have no cultural rights? Who will protect them? That's
Thank
it.
you, Seemaji.
Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
Seemaji.
Thank you so much, sir. And Ikra, now I will conclude the session with my concluding remark, which I think is very, very important. So this was definitely, I mean, it's a brilliant session. It was a brilliant session. And accidentally, I will say, I will arrange the speaker in a particular manner. First Himanshu sir, and then Surya Prakash sir, and then Vaidyanathan ji. But luckily, yeah, coincidentally, अगर आप देखेंगे तो they carried forward, you know, each other's thought. So we are continuously discussing about the Kartavyam, and today Himanshu sir has given us a new aspect, and that is related with the Kartavya Bodh, which is equivalent to Bharat Bodh. This is very, very important because, you know, something which is related with our national identity, firstly we should know this. जैसे ही हमने भारत को छोड़ दिया, भारत बोध को छोड़ दिया, हमने अपने कर्तव्य को भी छोड़ दिया, या भारत को जानने के अपने कर्तव्य को छोड़ दिया. The first thing we started fighting for our national identity. That is a very big problem जिससे कि हम सफर कर रहे हैं. और एक उनका कोट मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि अरविंदो अज्ञात घोष से श्री अरविंदो बनने की जो उनकी जर्नी थी, वो थी लॉस एंड रिकवरी ऑफ बोथ टू सेल्फ loss of the self and then the recovery of the self. So when he lost himself, he was Arvindo Agyat Ghosh, and when he recovered himself, or he recovered his self identity, he became Sri Arvindo. So this is something which is related with our identity. We should try to know that who actually we are, and we all are aware that India is a cultural identity. It is a spiritual land, और यहाँ जो सेल्फ को खोजा जाता है वो बेसिकली आपको कहीं ना कहीं सुप्रीम बीइंग से जो है वो कनेक्ट करती है। और एक जो बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज उनके इस पूरे 45 मिनट के लेक्चर की थी, उसमें उन्होंने जो बोला कि स्वराज और स्वबोध। शैलेंद्र सर प्लीज अपना माइक म्यूट कर लीजिए। स्वराज और स्वबोध ये स्वतंत्रता का एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है। तो जब हम स्वतंत्र हैं तो हमें खुद के तंत्र के बारे में भी सोचना चाहिए, जिससे कि हम अपनी आइडेंटिटी को स्टैब्लिश कर सकें। दूसरा जो सूर्य प्रकाश सर ने बोला, सूर्य प्रकाश सर ने बहुत अच्छा बोला कल्चर के बारे में। और एक उन्होंने एक नया, मुझे लगता है एकेडमिक डिस्कोर्स के लिए एक पूरा एक जो कॉन्सेप्ट आज हमने यहाँ पे क्रिएट किया, उसमें उन्होंने कल्चर के जो मटेरियल नॉन मटेरियल एस्पेक्ट बताए वो तो बताए ही। दूसरा उन्होंने कुछ बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें बताई कि हमारे उपनिषदों से लेकर के हमारे वेदों में, उपनिषदों में एक जो हमारे कल्चर का रिफ्लेक्शन मिलता है, चाहे वो मॉरल स्टोरीज के फॉर्म में मिले, चाहे वो उपनिषदों की कहानियों के बारे में मिले, अगर हम उनको कंपेयर करते हैं आज से, तो आज से वो आज के कंपैरिजन में वो कहीं ज्यादा जो है एसिमिलेटिंग भी हैं, और कहीं ज्यादा वो हमारी आइडेंटिटी को प्रोटेक्ट भी करते हैं। वो आइडेंटिटी जो कि हमारी फैमिली से प्रोटेक्ट होती है, हमारे स्कूल से प्रोटेक्ट होती है, और हमारे टेम्पल्स से प्रोटेक्ट होती है। और अगर वैद्यनाथन सर इसी की बात को हम सुने तो मुझे लगता है कि हम शायद एक पूरी चीजों को कोरिलेट कर सकते हैं। आज के समय में लंबे समय से वी आर बिलीविंग दैट द वेस्ट इज वेरी पावरफुल because they are making highest contribution in the global economy. Now because they are losing their percentage, तो उनको लग रहा है कि पूरी एक ग्लोबल क्राइसिस क्रिएट हो गई। सो द मैसेज इज वेरी लाउड एंड क्लियर दैट द क्राइसिस ऑफ वेस्ट इज नॉट द क्राइसिस ऑफ द वर्ल्ड। लेकिन एक बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट जो मुझे समझ में आया कि इस इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ को अटेन करने के लिए सबसे पहले वेस्ट ने खुद अपने फैमिली सिस्टम और कल्चर सिस्टम को उन्होंने खत्म किया है। सो दे आर पेइंग अ वेरी हैवी कॉस्ट to attain this level of GDP growth, and they are trying to push the same thing upon us through the cultural onslaught. और इसीलिए अगर आप देखेंगे तो धीरे धीरे हमारे परिवारों से, हमारे स्कूलों से, और टेम्पल विच वर द सेंटर ऑफ द कल्चर, दे आर ग्रेजुअली वैनिशिंग। तो इन तीनों चीजों को अगर हमने खत्म कर दिया तो हमने अपनी आइडेंटिटी को भी हमने छोड़ दिया, अपनी फैमिली और वैल्यू सिस्टम को भी हमने छोड़ दिया। और आज हमारे लिए इनका प्रोटेक्शन इसलिए जरूरी है because even after such a long period of cultural onslaught, still if we are surviving, that is primarily because of our family system, of our cultural system, and of our spiritual democracy. तो मुझे लगता है कि ये हमें समझना पड़ेगा। भारत में जो धर्म की डेफिनेशन है वो बहुत ही होलिस्टिक है, दैट इज नॉट अ रिलीजन। और अभी जैसे वैद्यनाथन सर ने बोला कि वेस्ट इज नॉट रेडी टू एक्सेप्ट द people belonging to other cultures, but you just imagine about भारतीय culture जिसे कि हम धर्म कहते हैं, we are so assimilating, we have accepted it, everyone. So it teaches us that how to respect others, how to assimilate others, and how to give respect to each other thoughts, opinions, as well as the existence. तो इसी के साथ मुझे लगता है आज का ये जो सेशन है वो हमारे लिए बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन भी छोड़ के जा रहा है, और इसने कई सारी चीजों के आंसर भी दिए। यंग जनरेशन को स्पेशली इसको रिकॉग्नाइज करना पड़ेगा कि द मॉडल ऑफ वेस्ट इज नॉट टाइम टेस्टेड। सो इवन इफ द जुडिशरी इज ट्राइंग टू इम्पोज द सेम मॉडल अपॉन अस, maybe the society is not ready to accept that. So our cultural values, our spiritual values, they are very very important, and our family values, they are very very important for our existence and to make India great again by 2047. So with this I will close the session, and I am extremely thankful to all the learned speakers and all the listeners who have joined us from all the part of the country. मैं देख रही थी नॉर्थ से साउथ और ईस्ट से वेस्ट, देयर आर रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ ऑलमोस्ट ईच एंड एवरी स्टेट, and simultaneously all the students, the questions which have been asked, and as an academician together we should take this responsibility as a citizen of this country to follow at least our कर्तव्य towards our nation, क्योंकि यदि हम अपने कर्तव्य को खुद नहीं कर रहे हैं तो हम सरकार से या जुडिशरी से भी उसके कर्तव्य को करने की अपेक्षा नहीं कर सकते. Basically yes, so obviously who are on the top, they are more responsible to create a good example for all of us. लेकिन हम अपने आप में भी कुछ एग्जाम्पल क्रिएट कर सकेंगे तो हमारे लिए अच्छा होगा. तो 2047 का जो भारत होगा उसमें हम सब अपने कर्तव्य को कंट्रीब्यूट करेंगे, एंड देन ओनली इंडिया इज गोइंग टू बिकम सुपर पावर अगेन. सो विद दिस आई क्लोज दिस सेशन, and once again I extend my thanks to all of you. There was so much to take away from this session, and this was a brilliant session for me. Thank you sir, thank you
Thank you.
Vedanath sir,
Thank
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 you
you,
Surya
Simaji.
sir,
Thank you, Vedanath.
thank you
Thanks
so
a
much.
lot.
Shalendra sir,
Thank
thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seema ma'am, for a
Thank you.
wonderful session.
Thank you.
Really, I learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you ji. Now we can close the session. Thank you Ramesh ji. Thank you Shailen sir.
Thank you, Dr. Seema ji.